بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي جعل الحمد مفتاحا لذكره وسببا للمزيد من فضله ودليلا على آلائه وعظمته، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله الطاهرين وصحبه المنتجبين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Praise be to Allah, who made praise the key to His remembrance, a mean to increasing His mercy and bounties, and a guide for His majesty and attributes. We greet and salute the most noble of all prophets, our own Prophet, Prophet Muhammad, and his pure progenies. Sisters and brothers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to our 11th night of this month of Ramadan 2020. I pray for everyone's well-being, and inshallah you are all keeping safe. يقول الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن الحكيم: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ويل لكل همزة لمزة الذي جمع مالا وعدده يحسب أن ماله أخلده كلا لينبذن في الحطمة وما أدراك ما الحطمة نار الله الموقدة التي تطلع على الأفئدة إنها عليهم مؤصدة في عمد ممددة. Woe and devastation to every backbiter, slanderer, who amasses wealth and counts it. He thinks his wealth renders him or them immortal. Never. They will be thrown into the crushing fire, a fire kindled by God, if one could imagine what that fire might be. They will be enshrouded by a fire that penetrates the heart while fastened to a tall column. A grim picture indeed. Before tonight, inshallah, with the help of Allah, we will be addressing two issues. One is to unpack a little bit about the Surah Humazah. But before I do that, since yesterday was the anniversary of the death of Sayyida Khadija alayhi salam, so I thought we will spend a little bit of time addressing a biostructure of her life. The reason why I say biostructure, about 4 years or 5 years ago, there was a symposium in Qom in Iran about the life of Sayyidatuna Khadija. Over 180 articles were submitted to this symposium. Huge research has been done about her life. And I don't think we have time to go through and delve in everything. Unfortunately, the life of Sayyida Khadija has suffered what the life of Abu Talib and few others have suffered. There is the politics of image building, and due to that politics of image building, when the Amavite took control, part of their policy was to demean Ahlul Bayt and anyone associated with Ahlul Bayt, and elevate themselves, Bani Umayyah. And one of the things that were done here is focus on one particular wife of the Holy Prophet and turn her into the symbol of youth and beauty, and for her to become from an ordinary person to the symbol of beauty that they were trying to present. Every other wife and everyone associated with the Holy Prophet has to be turned into somehow decrepit, old, ugly, or something similar to it. So, unfortunately, one of the not only Abu Talib compared to Abu Sufyan, Sayyidatuna Khadija compared to one of the wives, goes through this kind of crisis. One of the debate that they have created as a consequence of what I call the politics of image building, they have reduced the age of marriage of one of the wives of the Holy Prophet up to 9 years old. That has caused so much problem in the literature and the academia these days, trying to defend undefendable or undefensible, something that it wasn't real. Even scholars, Sunni scholars, are discussing and researching and said it's not. But yet, as Himmler once said, once you tell a lie, if you persist on it and keep telling it and telling it and telling it, people take it as a reality and becomes truth. So now that's the reality we have to deal with. As a consequence of this, the age of Sayyidah Khadija is one of those issues. When was she born? Although a number of grand scholars within the other schools of thought clearly indicate, and in their history books, that Sayyidah Khadija was born either the same year as Amul Fil or maximum 3 years before. But the image building, they give her 15 years before the Amul Fil, and they claim that at the time that she married the Holy Prophet, she was 40 years old, and the Holy Prophet was 25. One needs to pose this question. One of the sons that died during the life of the Holy Prophet, and that Quraysh began to call the Holy Prophet Abtar, we just finished a few days ago, Inna a'tainaka al-Kawthar. According to this tradition, that she would have been born 15 years before Amul Fil, that would have put her around 55 years of age for that son to be born. Highly unlikely. So this is something that, unfortunately, the irony of this is that once this lie is repeated, even us, the Shia community, just go back to the textbooks and ask and read. Yes, Khadija was 40 years old when she married the Holy Prophet. Far from the truth. It just does not make sense. So they increased the age of Khadija and reduced the age of one of the other wives. So now you have the Holy Prophet, on the one hand, married a woman that, according to them, even married before a couple of times, that at the age of 40, and then suddenly something happened to his mind and switched to 9 years old. Her father, Khuwaylid bin Asad bin Abdul Aziz bin Quday from the Quraysh tribe. Her mother, Fatima bint Zaid. According to researched and authenticated documents, the year of the birth is either the same as the Amul Fil or 3 years, maximum 3 years before, which put her around, if she was born the year Amul Fil, at the time of the marriage with the Holy Prophet, she was the same age as the Holy Prophet, 25 years old. And if we were to opt for the 3 years before, then she would have been 28. And people like Ibn Imad al-Hanafi, Hakim al-Nayshaburi, and few others have Halabi, and others have indicated that most likely to be either 25 or 28. Historians have said nothing about her life before Islam, apart from indicating that she was extremely successful businesswoman trading in silk. And anecdotal reports about her life indicate that she was well respected, conducted herself with dignity. She had a high status and within the Quraysh and all those people around her. Whether she was married before or she wasn't, it's another issue. Some people claim that she was married to two individuals before she married the Holy Prophet. And then it's part of that image building. And she had a number of girls and daughters from those marriages that she brought those daughters with her. And others claim that no, it was her first marriage. Certainly, if you opt for the 40 years old, then you have to accept that in the Arabian time before Islam, the Jahiliyyah, the notion that a successful woman at the age would remain single or spinster until the age of 40, it doesn't make sense. So you have to, now you have said one lie, you have to support it with few other lies that she was married before to two individuals. And the others, particularly the one we have a hadith from Ahlul Bayt, clearly indicating that she wasn't married before, and Fatima and at least one or two sons that none of them survived were their children, common children with the Holy Prophet together. How the status of the Sayyida Khadija, it's Sayyida Khadija and Abu Talib are the ones that they really stood up with the Holy Prophet at the early stage. Without their help, Islam would have taken a totally different course and may not have been able to overcome Arabian Peninsula as quickly as it did. It was due to the sacrifice of Khadija and Abu Talib. And the Holy Prophet repeatedly in a hadith that we have without shadow of a doubt, a hadith that whenever later on after the death of Khadija, every time somebody mentioned Khadija, tears poured down his face and used to say, Khadija, nothing comes close to her status and what she did for me, the sacrifice that she made, the wealth and everything else. The Holy Prophet needed at the beginning of the da'wah to have the support of the clan and the wealth. Remember, this is materialistically orchestrated and orientated society. And we have a number of verses from the Holy Quran that clearly points to this. When they are told, the people of Quraysh, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has granted prophecy and appointed the Holy Prophet to be a prophet, when he claimed that, the response was, an orphan doesn't have anything? Why shouldn't the prophecy go to somebody else, one of the grand characters of Quraysh or somebody around that has a lot of wealth? So, for 3 years, when the Quraysh decided that ultimately they cannot destroy the message of Islam, they have to isolate this small, nascent community. What did they do? They pushed them out of Mecca into Sha'b Abu Talib, that was a kind of a ravine or a canyon or a gorge between two mountains, Abu Qais, and another mountain close to it, Khandama, that was originally owned by Abdul Muttalib. And a number of people have gone into that valley and stayed during heat or crisis. So they pushed these Muslim community to this ravine, and they put embargo on them, a complete economic embargo on these people. Nothing to be sold to them, no one to marry them, nobody to allow them to marry to anybody else, a complete isolation, no food to go to them. Her nephew would secretly buy food from her wealth and pile a camel with this food late at night, try to go from back roads to get to this gorge and Shab to provide food for the Ahlul Bayt, as well as the Holy Prophet and everybody else that was there. For 3 years, she stayed in that with the Holy Prophet. Abu Talib, the Holy Prophet, Khadija, Ali, Fatima, and few others. The 10th after Bi'tha, when it has its own story as to how it happened that finally the Quraysh decided to remove this embargo on the Ahlul Bayt, finally allowed them to move out of that gorge or the canyon, and within a short period of time, Khadija died. According to, if she was born on the year of Amul Fil, that would put her around 55 years old when she died. Penniless. Historians say at the time before the Holy Prophet came and wrapped her in his own cloak, she had just one piece of abaya, the cover that she had, that was left out of all the wealth that she had accumulated before Islam. And within a few months after that, Abu Talib, another support, another pillar of a support for the Holy Prophet, passed away. So this is why the Holy Prophet would call the year 10th after Bi'tha, Am al-Huzn, the year of the sadness and the calamity, because he lost the two major supporters in his life. And soon the situation now that, or then, once Abu Talib's support and the financial support of the Khadija and her status were removed, the Quraysh found it easier now to deal with the Holy Prophet and began targeting and thinking about assassination. And within a few years, the Holy Prophet had to depart. She was buried in Mu'allad Cemetery, which is close in the bottom of the Hujun mountain. Unfortunately, since the Wahhabis came to power, they literally have destroyed everything, razed everything to the ground. So, inshallah, at a later time, this notion of the politics of image building, we will be able to discuss and see how fabricated hadith were used to change images. Let's proceed now to the second part, and that is the Surah Humazah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ويل لكل همزة لمزة الذي جمع مالا وعدده يحسب أن ماله أخلده كلا لينبذن في الحطمة وما أدراك ما الحطمة نار الله الموقدة التي تطلع على الأفئدة إنها عليهم مؤصدة في عمد ممددة. Woe and devastation to every backbiter, slanderer, who amasses wealth and keeps counting them. They think their wealth renders them immortal and they live forever. Never. They will be thrown into the crushing fire, a fire which is kindled by God. if one could imagine that, what kind of a fire that is. They will be enshrouded by a fire that penetrates to the heart of those, and while they are fastened to tall columns. Chapter Humazah and another chapter before it have similar kind of central theme. By the way, right at the beginning, as we were talking about Makki and Madani surahs, I pointed out that Makki surahs, one of their characteristics is not only that they are short, but one of the issues that they focus upon were the three fundamentals of faith, which is Tawheed, Nubuwwah, and Ma'ad. So this surah and the surah that is before it, which is Al-Asr, they focus about the Ma'ad, the hereafter. But each surah gives prominence to different characteristics of individuals, while Al-Asr focuses on the characteristics of those who will succeed on the Day of Judgment. This Humazah focuses on the character of those who will fail. The theme of non-belief that we talked about it a couple of nights ago, and its consequences in the Day of Judgment. In our relationship, non-belief with regard to our own relationship and duty to others, to ourselves, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the fact that it's a recurring theme right through all the chapters until the end of the Holy Quran, from literally around middle of the juz of the last juz. And Ma'un and Quraysh to a degree dealt with it. This one again is another approach. This chapter draws our attention to a fact, tries to draw the image of a society that used to exist before Islam, the Jahiliyyah society, and warns us as well that if we don't pay attention, if the factors and to exist, that kind of a society will come back. Once a depraved and a miser acquires wealth, huge amount of wealth, and this wealth is not complemented with the belief in the hereafter and accountability, that wealth becomes the center of value for these individuals. They think true capitalists. They think that the wealth represents all the values. They can buy anybody that they want, and they can do whatever they want. Remember, if the Jahiliyyah thought of wealth class as the value system that would identify somebody's hierarchy and status within the community, when Islam came, tried to remove this wealth and status and class and bring taqwa and substitute it as with taqwa. لا فرق بين عربي وعجمي إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم. If you really want to judge, first of all, the true judge is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Day of Judgment. But taqwa is the criteria that what we should focus upon, not how much money do we have. So according to the verse, if we pay attention, if we don't pay attention, the factors take shape, the characters will come back. And these depraved individuals, they have no principle in life beyond counting and hoarding money. And that becomes literally the moral, the ethical principle that they judge everybody else. By what, a few nights ago we talked about what kind of a heart becomes so callous that does not think about the orphan and the poor and the needy within the society, and ignore them, and does not respect them, does not pay attention to them. This is the same. it reminds us, once the wealth becomes huge, if it's not supported by the belief in the hereafter and accountability, wealth becomes a liability. Why? Because it becomes an issue that blinds everyone. And the only thing they think about is about wealth. And it's because of that wealth that one gives oneself the privilege to start backbiting, slandering every other individual, because they simply don't possess the wealth that one has. They don't have the big houses, or they don't have the cars, or anybody else. So this chapter draws our attention to these facts. They also thought not only it becomes the basis for value, the center or the pillar by which they organize their value and their moral conduct, they thought that this wealth is going to give them longevity and they're going to live forever. So the verse in the beginning deals with certain characters and identifies a number of vices that focuses on, and then tries to present what is the consequence and ultimately what happens to such individuals. The surah is Makki. It has a number of characteristics of the surah Makki, and starts by condemning all kinds of backbiting, scandals, and selfish hoarding of wealth, and that ultimately destroys one's heart, similar to the theme that we talked about a couple of nights ago. But identifies three vices. Number one, piling up wealth without giving it to the needy and the poor and the destitute. Remember, Islam has, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has obligated us to give them what is their due, because وَفِي أَمْوَالِهِمْ حَقٌّ لِلسَّائِلِ وَالْمَحْرُومِ. You are not doing them a favor by giving them this money. It is their right. This portion is theirs. If everyone who is wealthy enough gives the portion which is due to the poor and the needy, we would not have the economic crisis that we have today. Second, scandal and the backbiters and people who try to use this kind of slander in their relationship. And number three, character assassination. When you don't like someone, you fabricate, backbite, lie, deceit, and so on, try to destroy and demean and bring that person down. That's the basis for what I called the politics of image building. وَيْلٌ لِكُلِّ هُمَزَةٍ لُمَزَةٍ. Hams and lams are to make evil gestures to others and to malign or slander someone. The verse says, woe to those who make evil gestures and who find somehow search for fault in others. Making evil gestures and slandering others are two aspects of what we call the character assassination. When you want to demean a character, we go back to what we talked about a few nights ago, that out of envy and hasad, you search for some kind of image to destroy something, to destroy somebody else. So ultimately, one has to deal with this character, particularly during this month, that we are asked to reduce and leave and strip these negative characters from ourselves. This image, the fact that ridiculing, slandering are prohibited, is repeated in a number of verses. We have وَلَا تُطِعْ كُلَّ حَلَّافٍ مَهِينٍ هَمَّازٍ مَشَّاءٍ بِنَمِيمٍ مَنَّاعٍ لِلْخَيْرِ مُعْتَدٍ أَثِيمٍ عُتُلٍّ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ زَنِيمٍ أَنْ كَانَ ذَا مَالٍ وَبَنِينَ. Pay no attention to the wretched warmongers or who make evil gestures and sow seeds of dissension, which is in Islam forbidden. And they forbid of goods, usurp the right of others, cruel and flatterers simply because they possess wealth. And unfortunately, this is one of the negative characteristics of our society. Somebody has wealth, we immediately bow and prostrate in front of them, no matter where they got their wealth from. It doesn't matter. And yet, that wealth somehow glosses over everything else that they do. الذي جمع مالا وعدده. Not only they have these negative attributes and characteristics in themselves, that they character assassinate using Humazah and Lumazah. They have another issue to deal with. الذي جمع مالا, their only focus in their life, their only goal is to hoard more wealth and more wealth and more wealth. And rub their hands in glee as few zeros increase in front of the number in bank account. الذي جمع مالا وعدده يحسب أن ماله أخلده. This delusion that wealth is going to somehow a relationship between more wealth and more longevity. These two verses put together a picture of corrupt individuals that within the society somehow by hooks or by crooks they collect all the wealth that they have, but they have no morals. Wealth becomes their moral. And they slander freely, backbite freely, destroy somebody's character freely. And we judge them not by the other characters and by their other attributes, we judge them by the wealth that they have. أَنْ كَانَ ذَا مَالٍ وَبَنِينَ, simply because they have huge amount of wealth or large families. They thought that this wealth is going to give them longevity and long life. They live forever. And this is the Arab mindset during the Jahiliyyah. Everything they did for the sake of wealth. Why did they rise against the Holy Prophet? Because they thought that wealth status that they have built over many years is going to be somehow destroyed and in danger if equal distribution of wealth comes in. And the Holy Prophet says that there is no difference between Arab and Ajam because of they are all human beings before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's only taqwa. This is why they stood up, because they had a vested interest in the system that existed before. Now we know why. Then comes the next verse, the crushing response to such life. Kalla, never. لَيُنْبَذَنَّ فِي الْحُطَمَةِ, they are going to be thrown into the fire. Everything they have hoarded will be hurled into the fire that consumes and crushes everything. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْحُطَمَةِ. We really as human beings cannot perceive, no matter how descriptive the language becomes, how graphic the language becomes, how the world is going to an end. We read the verses in the Holy Quran, mountains crash, this happens, that happens. It's only to facilitate our simple understanding of the reality. That's why in some verses in the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala poses a question. The concept is very difficult to comprehend. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْحُطَمَةِ. Can we really perceive a burning fire that crushes, that contains within it so much power? The crushing fire. And then Narullah al-Muqadah. Why? Because it's not an ordinary fire that humans lit and put together a few branches of leaves and tree branches or dead stuff and make a fire for bonfire or everything else. It's a fire that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala it's the characteristic that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made that fire. The characteristics of this fire is that it will first, now we begin to see the difference. The ordinary fires that we create burns from outside towards inside. This fire starts from the heart that remained possessed by the love of wealth, where love of Allah and the Day of Judgment could not find space in it, in such a heart. This is why it focuses on that part. And was remained indifferent, or people that possess that characteristic remained indifferent to the reality that happens in the hereafter. Why? Because they allowed their heart to become the center of simply wealth and material life. Allah and the hereafter and spirituality and everything else good about goodness finds nothing in such heart. And there are verses in the Holy Quran clearly stipulating this. It's either or. You cannot have a heart which is full of sin and desire for sin and then expect Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to shine through it. وَمَا بَعْدَ الْحَقِّ إِلَّا الضَّلَالِ. If your heart is not full of Allah, then it must be full of falsehood. إِنَّهَا عَلَيْهِمْ مُؤْصَدَةٌ فِي عَمَدٍ مُمَدَّدَةٍ. The fire is, so to speak, efficient and closes on them, destroying everything within that fire. Even in such fire, such people would remain helpless. They are tied to long columns that they cannot defend themselves in front of the fire. This notion of, again, another verse in the Holy Quran, that Surah Al-Haqq, that says, خُذُوهُ فَغُلُّوهُ. Take him and chain him and seize him and put him in chain with an iron collar around his neck and cast him into the fire with a chain of 70 cubit long. You see how descriptive the verses of the Holy Quran becomes, so that we step back and we reflect. We should do everything possible during this month, really, to step back and repent. 11 months of material life, or focusing on hoarding wealth and everything else, is enough. And this is the time that we should step back and reflect and begin to change. And start one by one focusing on our negative attributes and removing them. Remember what Marhum Mutahari said, and I mentioned it a couple of times. One cannot ask Allah to grant him or her anything until we ask Allah to help us, remove these negative characters from our life. And no better time than this month. Remember khutbah of Sha'baniyah? The door to heaven is open. The door to hell is closed. You are the guest, and Allah is the host. He's doing everything possible for us to take one step and turn back. Would it be a shame to finish this month and we have no benefit from it beyond little bit of hunger and thirst? Let us pray for the safety and well-being of everyone in our community that have put their lives on the stake, protecting us. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the privilege of being able to fast during this month, proper fast, not just hunger and thirst. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.